Happy Sunday, everyone. It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Darryl Glover. And today I'm hanging out with one of my favorite guys in the industry, Dr. Adam Ramsey. Dr. Adam Ramsey, how are you doing today, sir?
And Dr. Glover, I appreciate it, man. I know whenever I talk to you, I'm gonna have a good time. I
Oh,
know you're gonna make me smile. I know we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna laugh. So I'm always excited to get on with you, and I love to talk to the audience and talk to the people.
absolutely. And for those that are following me on IG right now, because I am IG Live, just hit up the Black Eye Care Perspective webpage or Instagram page, and you'll be able to click the link and join in with Dr. Adam Ramsey and I as we talk about his book. Yes, we're going to talk about his book. So it's about to go down. So I want you guys to log in and check us out. Again, we're doing a Zoom meeting right now, and I want you guys to check it out. So, Dr. Ramsey, tell us
Yeah.
about yourself, man. Where are you from? Who are you? Like, we always see your name everywhere online. You're always doing something amazing, whether it's you talking to students, whether it's you moving the industry forward, whether it's you moving the culture forward. You're always doing something that's really changing the game. So if you could just give a warm introduction of who you are so that the listeners and viewers can know.
Well, for those who do not know, my name is Dr. Adam Ramsey. I graduated from Southern College of Optometry in Memphis, Tennessee. Shout out to all the SEO grads out there. I currently own Socialite Vision, which is my main office is in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. For those that don't know where that is, you got Orlando, you got Miami, we in the middle. So like in the middle of that, that's where you're gonna find Palm Beach Gardens. So I also operate three satellite clinics on the Seminole Indian reservations. So I do that as well. I speak for a couple of companies. Shout out to Bosch& Lomb. They're doing a great job. Loving the things that they're doing out there. And then, we got the shirts on today. We didn't even tell each other about this. And we just came on with the Black Eye Care Perspective right here. We didn't even tell each other. That's how we working together, that we knew it was a BEP kind of day. That was the day it was.
Absolutely, absolutely. For some reason, Adam, we're always on the same page.
Right here, man.
For those that are watching on Instagram Live, I'm actually hanging out with Dr. Adam Ramsey. If you want to listen to us or check us out, head over to the Black Eye Care Perspective Instagram page, and you'll be able to click the link. You're going to learn how to open up a practice warm. So, Dr. Ramsey, let's jump into the business, man. You got a book.
The book
is quite amazing. I've read it from front to back a couple of times, and
yeah,
not only do I have one copy, but I have two copies, man.
Just in case, man. Just in case,
Yeah, you got to represent, man. Sometimes I get family members that come in and they like to look at my little mini library. They get sticky fingers, so I had to make sure I have copies just in case.
Just in case. I mean,
as well.
Listen, if nobody try to take the book, that means it's not that good. So whenever somebody try to take it, that means you got something good. So that's what it is. So play chess, not checkers. The practical guide to warm start your dream optometric practice. So this is the concept behind this book is trying to help people that would like to open up a practice. Now, the one question I always get is, do I have to be an optometrist to buy the book? And I would say no. I am using optical examples, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be an optometrist to buy the book. You can use and learn from all the examples I have in here and use that and put that into your everyday life. The book is giving you a step-by-step, play-by-play on how to start a practice. And for those that do not know, we're gonna go through a couple key hints and a couple quick pointers that I would really want you to pay attention to in the book. So you can use the examples, and I always say use the example of, I learned from Best Buy and Macy's and Amazon and Apple. I'm not in that industry, but I can still learn from that industry. So the same thing with this book, you may not necessarily be in the eye care space, but you can learn from the book and apply it to your own individual industry.
So, Dr. Ramsey, why are you qualified to write this book? I mean, what makes you different from anyone else? I mean, you're just some optometrist down in South Florida. I mean, like, who are you? I mean, like, why are you qualified for this book here? I want to know, all the folks on Instagram that are, seeing behind the scenes, they want to know, why are you the man when it comes to writing a book about this topic?
Man, I have been through a lot. And the grays in my hair may not tell the whole story. The road that I've been
you got
through,
a black beard.
Yeah, and the beard. It's coming in the beard too now. And I thought I saw gray hair in my eyebrow last week. So it definitely, I have been through quite a bit in my eye care journey. And from what I've been through, I felt like I wanted to write down and write in this book exactly what's been going on, so that others can benefit, so that others can know how to avoid the potholes that I've been through, how to not have to go through the struggle, not have to go through the trials and tribulations that I've been through. So I've been successful to get through that. And what I decided was, instead of waiting until I was perfect, instead of waiting until my business was perfect, I wanted to write the book today. I wanted to write the book from the feeling of how it feels to be right in the middle of it, to still be going through it, so that the book can be a little bit more authentic. Because I feel like after you've arrived a little bit too much, it's hard to reach back and speak to the young doctor that got student loans and the young doctor that's debating, what should I do, and should I go here and should I go there, because you're so far away from it. So I said, instead of waiting till I was perfect, I was going to write it through my struggle, right through my pain. And the second I had something that I felt like other people could learn from, I wanted to go ahead and write it down. So the key part about this is play chess, not checkers. I want doctors and I want eye care professionals to play the game right. And hopefully we'll go through it today.
Yeah, we're going to go through it today. And for those that have not purchased the book yet, you can definitely check it out. You can purchase it. Dr. Ramsey will give us more information in regards to that. But I just want to let you guys know, again, I've read this book a couple of times. It's an easy read. It's straightforward, but it's full of great content that can really change your perspective when it comes to opening up a practice. Dr. Ramsey, I want to take it from the beginning, because this book is laid out perfectly. I mean, in the beginning, you have the amateur, which means arrange your pieces. Then you move into the middle game, make your moves. And then you have end game, checkmate. So I just wanted to take it from the top and just really touch briefly on each one of these sections in the book, starting with making the decision, reasons not to open warm, and begin with the end in mind. So if you don't mind taking from the top in regards to that.
The first thing I wrote about in this book, after I give you a little bio, after I give you a rundown of my life story and part of my life story, is I know the doctor that's deciding about opening a practice has to make some decisions, has to decide on which route you want to go. Right. And I wanted to make sure that the doctor is actually thinking through, hey, do I need to go this route? Because at the end of the day, what you're asking yourself is, I want the end goal. So I want to be a private practice owner. You do not necessarily have to open warm to be a private practice owner. And that's the first question I wanted you to answer for yourself was, can I get to the end goal without going through this bumpy road? And if you could do that, I would tell you that's the first thing I would suggest you consider, which would be talking to a great doctor like Dr. Ansel Johnson that's on here on the webinar, and saying, hey, Dr. Johnson, you want a partner? You need some help over there out there in Chicago? I know you got more patients than you can handle. You need a doctor like me to come in there and help you out. Now, that's the first step that you got to ask yourself is, can you find an Ansel Johnson out there in Chicago and join up with him and join forces with him before you decide to go open up across the street from Ansel, and Ansel crushes you across the street? You don't want that problem.
You just better send up some warm weather.
Yeah, man, I'm keeping it all right
this
here.
Time of year.
But yeah, so you want to ask yourself, can I find a private practice that I can join and join forces and become a partner in that practice? And that's the first and the best answer I would tell anybody that's looking to get into private practice in 2020 is to look to add on to a practice and see if you can take that, help grow that practice, help take it to the next level, help bring something to that practice that it may not have currently. So now, if you cannot find a practice with a doctor that you feel in a reasonable amount of time, 3 to 5 years, would like to bring you in as a partner if you meet whatever criteria they set out in the beginning, then I would tell you look to go and try and buy a practice. So look out there. There are some great practices that are for sale. There's some doctors that are looking to transition, maybe to go part-time, transition completely out of the field, and you go and try and find you a practice. Now, the key thing to finding a practice, I would tell you, is that you want to find a busy practice. And I would tell you, I would rather find a busy, ugly practice than a slow, pretty practice. Because you can make a practice pretty in a long weekend. You can add carpet, you can change, you can paint, you can add in an OCT. The vendors will get it to you within a week. You can have all the bells and whistles in a practice. Literally within 7 days, you can have all the equipment and all the computers and everything you want. But I know for a fact in 7 days, you cannot get a practice to go from slow to busy. So if you're looking out there, look for a busy practice. Now, if it's pretty and busy, that's great. But first, make it busy. And if you could find a busy practice, that would be the next thing I would look at and look for to try and open up a private practice, would be to find a busy practice that's already busy, and that you can take over, buy that at a reasonable price, and then continue to grow from there. Now, if you cannot go those 2 steps, the next step before you get to opening warm, I would say, is look and see if there is a commercial setting in which you could buy a practice or buy into a practice that you own the charts.
Yeah.
One second.
These videos are funny, you know why?
It's not my background.
There
Yeah,
we
got it.
go. All right.
All right, better?
Yeah, and before you go a little further, we've had a lot of people hit me up on Instagram. You know, they're talking about they got the book. They're going to tune in here shortly. So Dr. Habir out in Canada, he's purchased a copy. I mean, you're universal worldwide when it comes to this book, man. Great work.
He has a great podcast, the 2020 podcast. I've listened to it. I got a couple. I'm behind by 2 episodes, but I'm getting caught up. So the last thing I would say is look for a practice, a commercial setting in which you can see patients there. And after about 3 years, if you can then transition those patients to the warm start, then you're going to be a little bit further ahead in the game. You will be able to go a little further because you have some patients to start. It is very difficult if you open and just get a Google listing and try and sign up for the insurances to think that you're going to outrun that loan payment and outrun your run out of cash. You'll run out of cash flow too soon without some sort of warm start. So if you can find a practice in which you own the charts, and I tell you, you own something if you pay the bill. So if you don't pay the bill on the phone, that ain't your phone. If you don't pay the bill on the EHR, that ain't your EHR. If you don't pay the bill on the website, that ain't your website. The credit card machine,
you got to cut that check, basically, is what you're telling me.
You got to pay the bill because there's a lot of commercial settings in which you don't pay any individual bill. You just pay the commercial setting and they handle the rest. The issue with that is they have total control over that. So when you leave to go somewhere else, those items are no longer yours. So you built up 3 years worth of patients and stuff like that, but you can't really transition that very well out of there because they have total control over everything on the back end. So make sure you own what you're doing. You have control where you can move it and do what you want because the people are answering to you because you paying them. So now, if you have gone through all those 3 steps and you still cannot find an Ansel Johnson, you cannot find a practice to purchase, you cannot find a commercial setting in which you feel like you'll own the items, the charts, the EHR, the phone number, the website after you're done, that's when I would tell you, okay, continue reading the book and go through the warm start. Now, I would hope that half the people that pick this book up at the end of that first part would get one of those first 3. And that would be my first thing, is that half the people that are reading this book actually find to go through one of those first 3 options as a way to get into private practice. That's what you really are asking yourself when you read this book. I want to be in private practice. Now, how you be getting in private practice, that's there. Now, if you can't find one of those, like I couldn't find a doctor, I couldn't find a practice to buy, and it wasn't a commercial setting in the area that I wanted, that I could own the charts. So then I transitioned to let's figure out a way. Let's open warm. Let's get the ball rolling. And let's figure it out.
Dr. Ramsey, one thing that always blew my mind when I was in optometry school was the amount of folks that went to optometry school, but that didn't really, shadow enough or even be a technician to see if they really wanted to learn or be in this industry. They didn't go to a private practice. They didn't go to a corporate chain. I mean, just to sign your life over with that big check, you want to make sure that this is what you want to do. So same thing with private practice. I mean, how important is it to actually work in different modalities or different modes of practice before you make that decision and commitment to private practice?
100%. It's really important to really know what you want to get into. If you've never seen it, if you've never seen a well-run practice, you're probably going to have a hard time as a doctor running a practice yourself. You have got to have seen somebody be successful in private practice to then know, because until I became an employer, I never had employees before. So until you've seen it with your own eyes and you say, oh, they do these little meetings in the beginning, and this is what he does for the marketing, and this is how you get the staff to get around you when you're trying to come up with a new concept in the office, and this is how you're delegating, and this is how you engage with the technicians versus the opticians and your front desk staff. And until you've seen that, it's going to be real difficult. Right. Which is why if you bought a practice or you bought into a practice, they would have those pieces of the puzzle already worked out for you. So you only have to really concentrate on being a doctor and then growing it. If not, you do need to go and work in a private practice somewhere, or in some capacity to figure it out. And I would say, even if you worked as a technician or an optician before school, I would want to work as a doctor, because my mind is totally different. Because I worked as a technician and an optician before school, but I didn't see it the same way. I wasn't looking for the same thing because I wasn't at that level yet. So I would say definitely you need to work in one of those settings first to see if how that's going to benefit you.
Yeah. Now, something else that I really liked in the beginning is you were touching on, the power of building, building your credit, building your savings. Let's touch briefly on that. How important is it to have savings, and how much savings ideally should one have prior to opening a practice? And just touch briefly on the credit situation as well.
I did not realize how much my personal credit was going to play a role in my practice. When you start a practice, your business has no credit, no credibility. So all that the bank is looking at,
shirt, man.
no credit, no credibility. That's what the bank is saying. So the bank is going off of you. Everybody is going off of you. So everything hits your credit. So you need to start high so they can break you down a little bit. Because if you start in the middle, you're gonna be at the bottom real soon. So because that debt to income ratio is gonna look terrible after you first start. So in the book I put 640 just to be fair to everybody, but I would say you need to be at like 720, 750 when you start, so that you can end at 640 and then build it back up to 720 afterwards. Because when you go take out $200,000-$300,000 and then you buy an OCT and a camera and this, that, and the other, all of a sudden your debt to income ratio is not so lovely. So you definitely want to figure all those things out and have those as a part of your strategy going into it,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, one thing I know that really impacted you as a practice owner, and I know it's a story that it's one of the main reasons why you probably wrote this book, trademark, copyright. If we could really touch on that and just, let us feel your emotion, your vibes in regards to this topic right here.
I get sensitive when you mention this, Darryl, you always bring it right back. It hits my heart every time. Because I remember calling you. Yeah, exactly. I remember calling you and talking to you on the phone like, man, I'm about to change my business. I'm about to change everything. And you're like, what? You're like, you can't work a way around that? And that's like, nah,
Hey, I was like,
that's not how this is working out.
Hey, man, you need that Ramsey factor right now. That's what you normally hit people with, but you're like, man, the Ramsey factor don't even work for this one.
It ain't working right now, man. Ain't nothing I can do, man. I try to finagle my way out of this. That didn't work out. So when I started my practice, I looked up, I was first called Iconic Eyecare. And when I started my practice and I got that name, I went and got all the Google domains and the social media handles, and I got I got Iconic Eyecare on Sunbiz, which is how you get you register a business in Florida. So nobody else is called Iconic Eyecare. There was nothing out there. The website was easy, iconiceyecare.com. Nobody had anything like that. So I think I'm good. You know, I'm going along. I'm doing my thing. I'm working here, working there. And then come to find out that another company had trademarked not even the same spelling, a different spelling, but phonetically it sounded the same. So they trademarked EYECONIC. And because of that, I was now infringing on their trademark for their business. And they sent me a letter saying, hey, sorry about you. You know, we didn't tell you sooner, but you're infringing on our trademark and we would like you to stop. And I tried to work a way around it, but the 800-pound gorilla in the room was not budging at all on that, and was like, we'll give you some time, but just know you gonna have to change it. And I was like, okay. So then I said to myself, after I cried and I yelled and screamed, I was like, okay, I got to put on my big boy pants and figure a way out of this. So I said, okay. You know, I asked, at the time I was a president for the Palm Beach County Optometric Association. I asked at one of our big meetings, I said, anybody in the room have the name of their business trademarked? And we had like 60 doctors in the room. Not one hand goes up. I go to the Florida board meeting where all the presidents of all the counties and all the districts show up. And I said, hey, do any of y'all have the name of your practice trademarked? Not one hand goes up. I post online, hey, does anybody have their business trademarked? Not one person sent me or posted that I did it. So I'm like, hold on, I'm like everybody else. Nobody else paid the money to trademark. It's not a common thing in Eyecare to have the name of your business trademark. It just wasn't common. So that kind of comforted me a little bit, thinking that, okay, Adam, you didn't really mess up. Nobody was just not doing it. So, I had the unfortunate luck of a big business having the same idea for the name that I did. That's just the unfortunate luck, and they did the due diligence of trademarking, and now I infringed on that. So that's where I decided, you know what? I have to play chess in this arena, not checkers. I need to think bigger and think more and long-term about my business. And when I first started, I didn't know what level I wanted to go to with my business. I didn't know in which avenue or where I was going to go. And so that's when I decided to, okay, it took me about 1.5 years to get Socialite Vision trademarked. And I didn't realize how much work that was going to be. I thought I would just submit, and then they'd send you a little letter, 30 days, 60 days later. And that is inaccurate. That's not accurate at all.
It just wasn't the time. It's actually the money, the expense.
Woo! Damn, it hurts, man. Every time you're reminding me, man. It's expensive. You got to pay lawyers, and you got to pay lawyer fees and all kind of stuff. And then you have to submit the name. Then they do their due diligence, and then they say, nah, that's not gonna work because of so-and-so company. Because the Eyecare is a big money, big business. So a lot of companies have trademarked and bought trademarks that they're not even currently using. Now, the fun thing when I was doing my research, I could see some of the things that may be coming down the pipe and things that people are working on just from the trademarks. So you can go under the categories, and the trademark needs a description. So I can see people that are doing telemedicine, people that are doing new OCTs and different stuff because they trademarked under that category. You can literally look at it and see what's coming down or what they're working on because they have requested the trademarks in those categories in advance. So Yeah, it was a tough hill, but now Socialite Vision is trademarked, and nobody can infringe on that for myself, and I can't get kicked out of this one. So I decided that I have read every single business optometry book that is printed. So I have about 10 of them on my shelf. I have read all of them about twice. Not one of them have a chapter or a line on trademarking. So I've never been to a CE. I go to about a conference once a month. I've never been to a CE where they mention trademarking. I've never been to a show. I've never watched a webinar, never had a podcast. And I listen to about 10 podcasts in current rotation every week. I never heard anybody talk about trademarking. So I said, you know what? Nobody else is doing it. I've been through it. Who better to describe it and tell other people than the person that's actually been through it themselves? So I decided that, I was going to write a book, and that was going to be one of the parts of my book. And then I said, you know what? There's more to my story than that bump in the road. So how about I make the book bigger and just tell people, when you're opening your practice, trademark it, play chess, not checkers, have a plan, have a strategy while you're going into it, because you're in a big business game. And you can't think that just, having your practice is enough. You're going to definitely need to have a plan and a strategy to succeed.
So let's talk a little bit more about the guts of the practice. Should one hire a buying group? Should one hire a consultant? Should they just do it on their own? Should they hire some type of contractor to build out the practice? Should they, spend that long weekend and start building things on their own? Let's discuss the next section in the book, the middle game, making your moves. Starting off with, should you hire a consulting person or group?
I think it really depends on your comfort level and how much due diligence you've done before. How much work did you do, and how well are you versed in the ins and outs of a practice? Now, if your father, uncle, brother was an optometrist, maybe you have enough insight that you may not necessarily need a consultant. If you worked as an optician in a practice for 10 years before you got into optometry school, so you have some other things going for you, maybe you don't need that. But if not, I would definitely say you need somebody in your corner to help you out, because what the consultant really does is ask you the right questions. They're not necessarily going to give you all the answers, but the questions that they're asking you will lead you down the road to know what you want to do, because it's going to get your mind thinking and being like, okay, what areas do you want to be in? Where do you want to go? What is your goals? What type of practice do you want to have? And they're asking you the right questions, and they may give you a short list for places to find the solution or the answers of the type of frames you want to carry and the insurances you should do and your marketing. And they give you that really help and that boost to start. So I would think vetting quite a few consultants and find a group or a person that you feel close with, because you're going to be talking to this person a couple times a day for 6 months or so. So if you have to really like this person, they have to have a nice personality. They got to know how to pick up the phone. And I probably wouldn't pay them all up front, because then they may not pick up the phone the same way. Pay them monthly, pay them some kind of installment, something, so they still have to pick up the phone. But I would find a group or a person that you get along with and that you can communicate with, because it's a long road, but it should be a fun and enjoyable one that you're going through. So I definitely say a consultant is a very big asset. It's just finding the right fit for you and somebody that understands your particular situation and isn't trying to do a one-size-fits-all situation. It should be a situation in which, they're understanding the type of practice you're trying to develop in the area that you are trying to be in, and then give you a marketing plan or give you a strategy to allow you to be successful in that situation. And then you take it from there.
So, we all know the famous saying, location, location, location. When it came to you actually finding your space, can you just walk us down the path of how you found your location? That's part A of this question. Part B is, are you still happy with the location, or do you feel like you would have done something a little differently now that you've had some experience in finding your location?
So I knew I wanted to be in a high-end optical boutique. I wanted to be able to combine high-end fashion eyewear with a great eye exam. In my area, there was a lot of places that have great eyewear, but they didn't necessarily have the most up-to-date high-tech exam. And they had some places with some doctors that did excellent exams, but they didn't really have the best eyewear. So I was trying to combine two things that currently in my area wasn't being combined. So I knew to be there, the location actually mattered. The environment in which somebody is in when they're walking in and walking up to your practice does give them a feel for what the practice is going to be. So it took me a while. And then I had to think through, how does somebody get to my practice? Is it easy to get to? How close are you to the highway? How close are you to the major roadways? How is the parking situation where you are? Those are all things that you can't really change. When you're buying a house, they tell you lot, location, and layout are the things you can't change. Same thing with a practice. I'm in 1,235 square feet. I cannot change that very easily. Now I can remodel inside of my store in a weekend, but I can't change the 1,235 square feet. I can move around a few things, but I can't move that wall after I open. So very easily. So looking at the location and making sure that you selected the right location is really important. And then figuring out how your patients are going to interact with that location. Are they going to be able to find you pretty easily? They put it in the GPS. Is they going to pull them right up, or is it going to take them across the street because the complex is so new that the GPS can't find it? Stuff like that really does play a role in trying to have an 80-year-old patient show up to your practice and they can't find you. It does matter. Now, the second part of the question that you asked is that, am I still happy? So I've been in my location now 4 years, and I am happy with my selection. What I also have realized is that most of the patients that found me had my address and my phone number. So if I was in a different area, or if I was on the second floor of this complex, the patients would have still had my address and my phone number. So we could have told them, come up the elevator, we're on the second floor. So, and they had the address, they're putting it into a GPS. So very few people drove by or walked by my practice. Now I get a few walk-bys, I get a few drive-bys, but most people found me on Google or on their insurance company or referral from a patient in which they had my address and my phone number. So if there was a place, let's say you pay $5,000 a month for location A, but location B is on the second floor of a medical building and it's $3,000 a month, I would say that $2,000 may not necessarily be required. You might be able to get away with being on the second floor of that medical office building and save $2,000 and put $2,000 a month into marketing over necessarily saying you had to be on that first floor. Now, if you were, if you had great street visibility and you had a huge sign and you could see it from a major roadway, maybe. But even thinking when you drive on a major roadway, how often do you look at these stores and you can see the small stores in those complexes? Most times you see Target and Walmart and Best Buy, but the little small mom and pop 1,200 square feet store, you may not see on that busy roadway. So it would just really depend. Now, if you got the first location at a great price, then go for it. But I don't know if I don't know if I necessarily needed that because of the amount of people that had my address and my phone number, and my staff still to this day tells them, come on this street, park right there. We're next to so-and-so and so-and-so. So they could have done that if I was on the second floor as well. And if I had an elevator, anybody in a wheelchair or whatever could come up the elevator. So if you have the opportunity, don't necessarily be scared away from a medical office building or a second floor if the price is right. Now, if the price is not much cheaper, then I wouldn't do it. But if it was much cheaper, that $2,000 savings, you could then go into your marketing budget, go into other parts of your business that really makes a difference in the beginning. It's that saving of $2,000. Trust me, there's some months when I started that $2,000 was a big deal. So, later on, it might not be a big deal, but in the beginning, when you first start warm, $2,000 savings, it matters. So, Just depends on the situation.
So, you know, I'm glad that we're touching on this because, you know, one thing that that really can change in regards to, you know, going with A or B is number one, your brand, and then number two, your marketing. A lot of folks just like to jump into marketing, but they don't really understand what their brand is. How important was it in developing your brand and then being able to market that afterwards?
You take the words right out of my mouth, man. The first thing most businesses and most business owners need to understand is that you need to develop a solidified brand first and push that brand into the market. When you market without having a core brand, you are making the consumer determine your brand because you don't have it. So if hold on a second. Just gonna mute some people here. Is that better? All right. If you do not have a solidified brand, then the consumer is the one that's determining your actual brand. You want to be able to know that your business is different than others. If you don't determine your brand, then you become CarMax. At CarMax, you can buy a Mercedes-Benz and you can also buy a Kia in the same place. And if you do not have a defined brand, then the consumer is confused. When they're telling the story of your practice, they don't know how to effectively tell that story because you have not given them the characteristics of that brand that you want to push out there into the community. So I tell all business owners to start with a defined brand. Hold on one second. I'm just gonna mute all. All right. Make sure that you figured out your brand and then you're pushing that out into the community. And make sure you're helping the consumer because you never want somebody to make a referral to your practice and that's not the setting that you actually do. You know, I don't see kids until 7. So I want to make sure patients understand that, you know, I'm more of an adult practice. You know what I mean? If you have a 2-year-old, there are other practices that are better suited to see that patient. So making sure that you define that brand and then push that brand out there. And this is where I learned from other industries because you rarely see a Ferrari commercial. You rarely see different commercials because Ferrari has such a defined brand that it no longer then needs to market at the same level and to the same consumers because they're not marketing to everybody, right? So a Ferrari or a Maserati dealership does not get frustrated when Honda opens up across the street because we're not going after the same consumer. They know their brand, they know they have a brand identity, and they're comfortable in that. Whenever I see optometrists get frustrated about online, get frustrated about this group and this private equity thing and this, this commercial setting, that lets me know that they have no defined brand because they're supposed to be the Maserati dealership, not concerned about the Honda dealership across the street. And the second you do that, that lets me know you're a CarMax. You're trying to be all things to all people. And when you're all things to all people, you're not really any good to anybody, you know, because the person that wants to buy the BMW may think you don't give great service. And the one that wants to buy the low-end car doesn't feel like you're low enough. So you'll never really reach the consumer the way you need to.
So what about marketing? I mean, once you have this brand established, let's talk about some of the marketing tactics. Because I know before your practice even opened, you started a warm practice and you did a lot of marketing. I mean, there was things you did in the community that just blew my mind, and some folks that you work with. And one thing that I really love that you always talk about is when it comes to working with other brands to help market, you do it more on a horizontal scale instead of on a vertical scale.
Well, this man remembers, man. This man taking notes or something over here. But yeah, so I tell everybody, network across. You know, that's my network across situation, in which a lot of people try to network up. So they try to find a business or another person that may be above or have gotten further than you and try to get, if you pull on to them, they can pull you up. And I say, no, start off with networking with people on your level that's right where you are, because y'all will push each other. Y'all will push each other much further than somebody that's above you thinking they're going to pull you up. Now, when you network so hard across, the person above will then look down and see you where you at and want to pull you up. Right. Because they see themselves in you. They see something in you that they want to help inspire and help push forward. So I tell everybody, network across. And with that networking across, when I open my practice, you know, people say, oh, you should do a trunk show and this and that. And I was like, I didn't have no patience. I didn't have enough patience to do a trunk show. And the patients I did have, they just came to my practice, you know, last week. So I ain't gonna have no new frames. I just showed it to them last week. So instead of that, I got creative in how I got people to come in my doors. So I did a fashion show in which people wore color contacts or funky cool glasses. And then I got clothing designers that are local in the community to have their clothing on. I got jewelry designers local in the community to wear their jewelry. I got hair and makeup artists that wanted to promote their brand and their services. And we literally did a fashion show. And we had about 150 people in my store just to do a fashion show. And they walked down the aisles, and I got somebody to make these little boxes so they stood on top of the boxes. And so they would kind of vogue it out. So they in there, you know, hitting them. You know, we were doing our thing in the fashion show. But then we got people to see the cool items. And then we contacted some local magazines and newspapers, and they came out and was like, you know, Social Life Vision is out here in the community doing the fashion. So we got into the fashion section of the magazine, which most eye care professionals wouldn't necessarily be in the fashion section of a newspaper or in a news article. But we were showing them that, you know, we eye care with style. That's what we do. So I did a fashion show. I did a jewelry show. Eyewear is jewelry for the face. So we did a jewelry show, and we supported a battered women's shelter. And we gave a portion of the proceeds that was sold that evening to the battered women's shelter. And it was a great time that was had there. So we were able to support some nonprofits along with, you know, people getting to come in and buy some great eyewear and buy some great jewelry. So we've done art and poetry. I had a DJ come in with the vinyl records, and they were spinning on the records, man. You know what I mean? I almost thought I could be a DJ. I was thinking about it. I was like, man, you know, if I had a little more free time, man, I might be able to go ahead and, you know, turn up a little bit.
But the main thing is you work together, correct?
Correct.
You didn't sit down and cut them a check for, okay, you did this.
No.
That.
I didn't have no checks to cut. I didn't have no checks to cut. So instead of thinking that I'm going to go out and pay for everything, I said, hey, let's work together. You're going to be selling items in my store too. So now you have a free place to sell items. And I'm going to market it. You're going to market it because you're trying to sell too. So I didn't have to pay as much on my marketing for the event because I had 10 other vendors that were all trying to make the event successful because they wanted to make money too. So all of us are working together. I just happen to have the space. Not a lot of businesses are small and work out of their home, so they don't have the space to hold and house an event. So I had the space to house an event. You're a vendor, you wanted to sell your products. So we all worked together to promote and market the event. And each of the events were successful. I had over 100 people. So in my first year, every other month, every 3 months, I would do some sort of event to bring foot traffic. And some people came to the event. Like I had the art show, people were buying art, and they didn't even know it was an optical. They came in for the art, and then were like, oh, y'all sell glasses in here? Oh. And my staff knew we were on the clock. So y'all having a good time, but we on the clock. So all the insurance stuff was up, all the EHR was up. So the goal was to get everybody assigned for an appointment or everybody to buy an item. We look up your insurance, we booking appointments. So every event, we booking 20 exams that week just by people coming in and like, oh, your husband, he's on your insurance too. How about you bring him with me? Oh yeah, he's never had an exam. He need to get his eyes checked too. And we're doing that. So, you know, it was just a different way of getting out there, getting creative, thinking outside of the box. It's been a great thing. People have been asking me about it too. People that have been there before. The first 2 years I did them pretty often. Now I'm pretty busy, so it's a little harder to do those. But I want to get back into it because it was a lot of fun. Some of my patients that have been there from the beginning were like, I ain't never been to an eye doctor that I could network with, and you know, got me business. You know, so they're asking me to do it again. And then what happened is I outgrew doing the events at my office. So we would get 100, 150 people. And in 1,200 square feet, that's too many people.
You're almost kissing each other at that point.
Woo, it was serious. It was serious, you know, but it ain't a real party unless the police show up. So you know, the police showed up a couple times. So that lets you know it was a real party. You know, we was having a good time. So then I said, you know what, I have to move this out of the store. And we started going to hotels and doing networking after dark and wine and cheese events out in other hotels, local hotels. So I approached hotels and said, hey, you know, I've done this event over here. Would you like me to bring it to your establishment and bring you 150 people? And the hotel was like, oh yeah, on a Thursday out of season, yes, bring us that. And we would do it there. We had networking events. And so actually been approached to do another one recently. So it's probably going to be back on the road again for that. I haven't done them in a while, but the people need it. So the people asking, I try to deliver.
Gotcha. So I wanted to touch on two last things. I mean, we've kind of jumped to the end game and checkmate with some of the things that we just touched on. I want to kind of circle around into this area a little bit more. One thing that you told me in the past was that a lot of folks think it's ideal to spend the least amount when they're doing their grand opening. And for you, you have a completely different perspective on that. And I just wanted you to share briefly in regards to why is that?
Oh, no, don't spend the least, spend the most. Go big or go home, man. You need to make a splash. You know, that's, you know, marketing is not a light switch, it's a snowball. So you want to start off as big and bold as possible. Make as much noise as possible. I was amazed at how well we did those first 3 months. We could not keep up those first 3 months. Oh my gosh, I needed some help those first 3 months, which I thought we were going to start slow and, you know, build our way up. But we had created such a buzz in the community to start that I had more work than I needed in that beginning phases and that beginning time. So no, I would say go big. We actually did 2 different open houses. So I did one for friends and family, and then I also did friends and family in the community, and I did a separate one for vendors and people that help with the construction and my neighbors in the plaza. And you know, so I separated out because my 1,200 square feet wasn't big enough. So I had about 100 people at each open house. So that people got to come in and see a store. And my thought process was, if you can drive to my store for the open house, you can drive to my store to get an eye exam. So if I was not too far for you to come over here to my open house, then I'm not too far for you to come get an eye exam next week, Thursday at 2:30. That was my idea behind that. So to get as much buzz as possible, and I videotaped it all and I recorded it all, and I posted the first open house, and the ones that missed that, they got an opportunity to come to the second one. They're like, oh, I ain't missing the next one. And they're showing up and they want to see it for themselves. So no, I would say go as big as you can. You want to do a carnival, you want to do whatever you want, go big, you know, because you need to make some noise, because the other people in the community, the established businesses, the other commercial entities in the community have been there a lot, and they have a big marketing budget. So if you don't make a splash in the beginning and wake some people up and shake some people up and have somebody say, I heard about you. I heard about this place. Oh, I had to come see this for myself. People have been talking about you. And you want to have that be the reaction that happens in the community, that people are looking and say, okay, what's going on? What's happening over there? Socialized Vision making some noise.
Absolutely. I wanted to wrap up with one last question, actually going back to the middle game. You know, everyone that's opening up a practice, one of the main things that they're concerned about is basically how to equip their office and also frame inventory. I know you have a very unique perspective when it comes to eyewear in the practice. So let's talk a little bit about that.
You have to figure out what type of practice you want to open. So when you figured out, if I want to do independent eyewear, you want to have eyewear that people do not have in other places, and they have to learn the brand stories behind that eyewear. You're telling a story of buffalo horn and wood and leather, and you're telling a story about it being designed in France but manufactured in Japan because of the ironwork and the metal work that has to get done with the details. And that consumer then has to trust in your business and your practice. And they're like, oh, I love coming there because they gave me something I never had before. You know, people want to be able to tell a story about the frames that are on their face. And, you know, that's one setup. But if you also wanted something that where patients say, you know what, I came for this brand. Unless you have this brand, I'm walking. Which you are, there are going to be customers that if you don't have this brand, I appreciate you, Dr. Ramsey. You're real nice. I like you. You know, I'm not so sure about the beard, but I like you. But you don't have the brand that I'm looking for, so they walk. And you have to really understand and be comfortable with that and know what type of consumer and what type of customer you're going after. You know, when you're looking, you can always buy more frames, but trust you me, they won't take it back and give you your money back. So be careful when you are buying the frames, because that is money that's literally sitting on your shelf. And this is not in the book. So every time I do one of these interviews, I think of more stuff. And as you grow, you think of more stuff. But if I can get people to think of frames as furniture, not inventory, then you are accurately thinking about the way frame buying should be, because you need to leave that best frame on the wall. So that's not actually being sold. You are then buying another frame, drop shipping it to the lab, or tracing the frame and sending it in, leaving the frame on the wall, buying another one and purchasing the lenses. So your actual sale came off of the new one you ordered and the lenses you purchased. So what is on your shelf is actually just furniture. It is actually just what you showroom. Like if you went to City Furniture or Rooms to Go or whatever, the inventory that's in City Furniture or Ashley's, they don't sell. They're selling what they have from the store. And when you think about that, when you think about I have $30, $40, $60, $70,000 in furniture, your buying process would be different. Because now you're thinking, okay, that money is going to sit on that shelf. And I cannot access that money, even if I wanted to. It is sitting on that shelf. So when you're buying, making sure that you buy products that you have decent margins on, making sure that you are more selective in your purchasing of the products, because the frames, the vendors are going to want you to buy 60, 70, 120 pieces. That's great. But 120 pieces of furniture is a lot of furniture. And
a lot of
cash
money.
flow is tied up into that furniture. That's a problem. And that's a new little thing that I haven't heard anybody talk about before. But if you could think of your frame buying as furniture, you may be more selective in how you are purchasing your eyewear and then determining your pricing structure, because that is strictly just furniture.
Yeah, you know, one thing that I really love that you do, because I've had the opportunity to actually hang out with you at Vision Expo East and West and various conferences, is that you actually have a great relationship with these frame designers. They know you by your first name. They remember the conversation that you had last time, and they know what you're looking for. I think having a good relationship is key, and it can really change the game in regards to you maybe getting some stuff a little sooner than other individuals. That way your practice can stand out.
Oh man, bring it to me early, man. I need to send it to me, you know, behind the scenes. I don't want it when everybody else get it.
So I think, you know, one key thing that I've learned from you is really just developing that relationship with the frame designers or frame companies, because it can really make or break your practice in regards to, you know, what's available, maybe price wise. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I almost saw you get a free OCT at one.
Hey, don't be telling all my secrets, man.
But I think the relationship is key. The other thing I think that is key with that relationship is being able to talk to the designers about their products. I know you've had the opportunity to sit down with me, and we touched on frame design with a company known as Coco and Breezy. And next year, what do we see? Frames exactly that you articulated on how you think it would do better in your practice with the demographic that you were prescribing to. And what do you know? That happened. And if you could actually share the success in regards to that little tweak that they made to the frame designs of what took place in your practice.
So what you're describing is I got introduced to a frame company called Coco and Breezy about 2 or 3 years ago. And we were at Transitions Academy, and I got to meet them in person. So I heard about the company before. I looked them up. I sought out the frames, but the frames were too small, and it was too many rounds. And I was like, okay, you're African American frame designer, but a lot of African Americans have larger heads, and you know a lot of them like more of a square fit to the frames, and they were designing stuff that fit well on their face. But they were not necessarily the prototypical African-American consumer. So I said, hey guys, can you please make some more square, larger eye size frames? I want to support you guys. I want to be there, but you got to give me something I can sell. You know, I don't want to just buy the first round of frames. I want to buy the second, third, and 10th round of frames from you guys. So I remember we were at Transitions Academy, and I raised my hand, and I yelled out my suggestions, and they were like, oh, Dr. Ramsey, you have been heard. And literally like a year later, they reached out to me and they sent me a message saying, hey, we heard you. What'd you think about this? And they sent it to me, and it was beautiful. It was exactly what I asked for: bigger, square, more color. And you know what? I brought it in, and I cannot keep these frames on my shelves. They are selling better than anything else in my store currently, just because they understood the consumer. And that's where having a relationship with these independent brands that you can have, that you cannot have with the big box, you cannot have with these big companies. So I'm able to develop relationships with the frame designers and the frame companies and say, hey guys, this is what the people are asking me for. So at my store, I'm doing the exams, I'm in the optical, I'm selling the products. I'm going to the trade shows to buy the products. So I'm looking at thousands of items and picking a couple hundred of them. So, and I'm out there seeing what patients are picking up, what they're buying, what they're passing over. So I go back to the vendors and I say, hey guys, this is what I need. Y'all want me to buy more product, but you ain't giving me what I need. So I tell them what I need, and a year later, all of a sudden, boom, it's there. And then you know what? They're coming back to me and saying, hey Doc, you were right. We should have had this a long time ago. And that's where that's where you're seeing where we laugh, and I laugh at the frame vendors, and I'm like, I've been trying to tell you for 2 years, give me bigger, more square, more color. It's gonna work, trust me. And you know, they did it, and now it's working and it's selling, not just in my store, in other stores. So having that relationship with the vendors is very important. And you know, that's what I'm selling in my store. That's the product. That's what I'm putting out, and that's how people are really describing my store, is by the products in the optical. So I need to have products that I can sell. I need to have things that fit the face and the demographics that they're asking for. So I'm real happy about having that relationship.
Yeah, relationships are key. I mean, it's just not with frame designers, it's with your lens companies, with your patients, with your team members. I mean, relationships is how you create something great and make it bigger over time. What I want to do now is actually open up the floor to some questions. As I mentioned earlier, Dr. Ramsey, I've been on Instagram Live, just giving some behind the scenes footage, and everyone's really been enjoying it. We've been getting a lot of thumbs ups and things of that nature. But a question that I have here now is, how do you know it's time to add another day to your schedule for a cold start if you're working a couple days outside?
The first thing I did, so when I started, I did 3 days in my practice, and I did 3 days outside my practice. So I was working 6 days total, and I would take 1 day off. Usually it was Sunday. What I had the staff do is give me a tally mark. How many times did I lose a patient because I was not there? So I was at the practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I worked elsewhere Monday, Friday, and Saturday. So they would have a tally mark by the phone, and I would tally every time I would lose a patient, because sometimes a patient would call on the Monday, but they were able to schedule them on Tuesday. So that was not a loss to me. That's just building up my days that I'm there. But if somebody would walk in or call and say, I want an appointment today, do you have anything available? And when we said no, they left and went somewhere else. that was considered a tally mark, because online the patients didn't know what my schedule was. So they see the practice is open Monday through Friday, so they would call. So when you lose too many patients that cannot be scheduled on other days, that's when you then want to add on and take back another day. So I would say if you're losing, 4+ patients per day on a regular, consistent basis, that's when you want to think about taking back one of those days. And then remember, you're going to have to, you're paying yourself out of the profit. So you're going to have to, make sure your revenue per patient is high enough and your profit is high enough that when you lose the ability to get revenue at outside, you can then still pay yourself out of what you're getting inside. So have a little tally mark and look and see when you're losing patients because of it.
Gotcha. And let's open up the floor to those that are actually on the webinar right now. I see we have some folks here that may have some questions. Feel free, if you don't mind unmuting them, Dr. Ramsey.
Yeah. All right, everybody's unmuted.
Any questions?
Anybody have questions about anything? It don't even have to be about this.
Yeah, Dr. Ramsey, I really enjoyed your impression on terms of co-marketing and networking with other people. I think sometimes we stay within our own little world, and it's very important to talk and network with people other than eye care providers.
Yep.
We can, and that synergy can be more powerful than what we kind of think of at first, because if they're not competition, but everybody, especially if they're really into social media, they have their own little network. So I think that can really help a whole bunch of folks.
Well, you do a lot of with the diabetes education, and you do that. I see you at the health fairs, and I see you doing all that stuff. So you have already been doing that in the health arena. But what I would tell you is open up the way you're networking and the way you're marketing to beyond just that arena, because then you're opening yourself up to a lot of different people. And I've been hustling and trying and grinding for the last 4 years, and I still meet people every day that says, I never heard about you. I didn't even know you were there. And that lets you know that I post so much on social media. I have been in newspapers and blogs and magazines, and I've been on the news like 10 times. And I meet people every day that say, oh, I didn't even know about you. Let me get your card.
Mm-hmm.
So that's let you know how hard you have to grind with marketing and how consistent you have to continue to go after it, because there's gonna you people still not gonna know about you. People are still not gonna hear about you. So you have to have a consistency with your marketing, and then diversify your marketing so you reach different people.
Yeah, I agree, and that's my niche, but I agree with that. There's a Black business event coming up with Black restaurants, because in Chicago everybody's talking about how African American businesses should support more African American businesses. So I do agree with that, because successful Black restaurants have huge social media followings when they're popular. So that's one thing I definitely had put on my checklist actually before I get on here. So thank you for that.
The restaurants are big, and they have a really good, especially on Instagram, because food photographs well. Right. So that's going to have a very good response because hold on one second.
I know. Sorry? I know, but you can watch. You've been watching TV.
Hey guys.
Let's get in the house. Do a little debate.
All right, better. Restaurants have a very good social media following. So because of the photographic nature of the food. So that's one thing I've learned for myself to really do well on Instagram or anything like that. It really comes down to the photos. And Darryl gets at me because I'm always buying a new phone. But that's because I want the picture to be as clear as possible. I want the quality to be as good as possible, because I've seen what having that clear, consistent picture and imaging does for food vendors and clothing designers and stuff like that. So that's what I'm really working on for my own business, is to to do a better job of photographing and doing that detail work with photography to really attract it and get in those different types of consumers. If we as eye care professionals could really take our time to try and learn from other industries instead of just trying to stick to our box. And that's where I'm going to challenge myself this year to go to trade shows that are not necessarily eye care related, and go and listen to blogs and listen to podcasts that aren't just in my industry, because there are some things that we lag on. And if we only look inside of our own box, we're listening to the same talking heads over and over and over, and they getting their ideas from the person they heard last week. And that authenticity and that new idea has to come from somewhere different. That's where I'm challenging myself to get outside of that eye care space and see what can I pull from food and clothing designers and in the car industry, et cetera, and take those concepts and ideas and bring them into the eye care space.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I will still add to that, other healthcare professions we don't think about. You know, at my symposium, we had a pharmacist, had a physician, had a diabetes educator. I actually found a woman that is into mental health issues, especially targeting Black men. So that's an ever-growing process also, that we don't think about, because they're all, like you said, we're all on the same level. We're all looking for patients. So, you know, it's just taking advantage of that synergy also. So both inside the healthcare field, outside our profession, as well as in the fashion industry, because, you know, we're the only industry that actually links fashion, function, and primary healthcare.
I couldn't say it any better myself.
Any other questions, you guys? We're gonna wrap it up here.
I don't know, can you guys hear me? I'm driving, so.
Yep, we can hear you. Go for
it. Now.
No, I'm not doing the video. I'm just doing the audio.
Okay, who's this?
Peter. This is Dr. Peter.
Okay, hey.
Hi, guys. I have a question about your book.
Sure.
How long did it take you to write the book? I kind of came in a little, like 20 minutes into while you were talking, so you may have said it earlier and I may have missed it.
No, I didn't go into that. I didn't go into that, so that was good. I was wondering how long it was going to take somebody to ask me that, because I wrote the book, and I hope that not just people that are wanting to open a practice, but I hope I got some other people engaged and energized to try and write a book for yourself, because there are nuggets in this book that I share that you'll learn from, and there are nuggets in everybody's book that they could share, and we could all learn from everybody. So I hope that more people write books and more people start podcasts and more people do things in which we can all learn from each other, because everybody's story is different, and everybody's experience is different. So the book took me about a year to write. And the way I would go about doing it from somebody else is just start. That is the hardest part, is the starting and being consistent with your writing. So make sure that you just every day just try and write a couple sentences, a couple paragraphs, a couple pages. As soon as something comes to your head, that notes section in your phone is an excellent place to write down some hints and to get through. So it took me about a year to write.
Okay.
And it took me a couple of months to get somebody to do the book cover for me. And I did about 4 or 5 drafts of the front cover, because the name and the cover sells books. So if the name ain't right and the cover don't look right, you no matter how good the content is on the inside, you'll probably never get a person to actually read it. And then I had about 10 people that I leaned on, where I sent them the book covers and I sent them the title, and the title has actually been changed about 4 times before I actually released the book, and made some subtle changes because of the people that I trusted and asked questions of before opening. So I changed the book cover a couple of times, changed the title a couple of times, and then I was satisfied with the results. Then I had to send it to an editor, and the editor chewed it apart, which is what I was paying them to do. You know, chewed it apart and helped fix some of the grammatical stuff in there. I actually had 2 editors, so I sent it to one editor. They chewed it apart. Then I read it. I fixed some more stuff. Then I sent it to another editor that did not even know that they were the second draft editor. and they found stuff that even the first editor didn't see, and I didn't see, and my mama didn't see, and all the other stuff. So, did it again on the second time. So that process probably takes another 6 months. So if you're really taking your time and going through it. So you want to give yourself a full year to do it. You may be able to do it sooner if you could write a lot faster than I was able to, and you stayed on top of it and you didn't have other projects. You may be able to do it sooner, but I would say it's about a year project.
And Adam, before we...
Okay, I've been actually not trying. I've actually written down some things over since last year. The whole outline of the book that I'm writing, that's done.
Okay.
But the hardest part for me has been the first sentence. And I know it's weird, right? Because the whole book is in my head. From beginning to end is the first sentence I just can't get out.
Well, skip the first sentence and start writing the second. So
Okay.
skip the first one and start writing the second sentence. Don't worry about it. Just start typing. And then what I did was I wrote and wrote and wrote. And then when I got to the end, I read the first part. And I was like, I don't like the way that sounds. And I rewrote it. And I changed some stuff and I added and just kept going back through it. So don't get stuck on the first one. Don't get stuck on perfection. Just write down. Just get it out. Just get it out of your head. Just start typing. And that's what you have editors for. And that's what you have people in your circle to help you along the way. So the first step, that's why I said the hardest thing is just starting. Don't if you wait for perfection, you'll never do it. So just write something down.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate those, your comments and your advice. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, Dr. Ramsey, we have one last question here. Fire away. Let me unmute. If you can unmute Dr. Barbara.
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hi. Okay. My name is Barbara Doon. I'm calling from Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay.
Thank you so much, guys, for everything that you do, and please keep it up.
Thank you.
So, my question is, I am an independent doctor working out of a optician's practice. And for various reasons and things, I'm thinking of moving out and, doing my own thing. But my main thing is that I don't really want to go into a place where I own an optical. I know everybody's all about optical and doing glasses, and, I just don't really want to be, for lack of a better word, bothered with that. I really want to concentrate on the medical part of it and do that. I do a lot of dry eye where I am. Right now I have a lot of Medicaid patients. I know that, when I move, I don't know if I'll have that same kind of patient base. I hope I will. I haven't yet, sort of really looked at the location that I'm going to, but my idea is to go out somewhere where I won't have to be involved really with the optical again. I really loved where I'm at because of that. And various reasons, but I feel I need to move on. But, what would you advise there? Because I really don't want to have to have a practice where I have to have an optical.
There is nothing wrong with saying you don't want to have an optical. You can have a practice without an optical. The only caveat I would say is that you got to keep your overhead lower, because a lot of the profit from the practice comes from the optical. So if you're not going to have the same level of profit, you can't have the same level of expenses. So you would be the person that I would think needs to be on the second floor of a medical office building where you can get a lower rent or a lower overhead than somebody that's going to pay for Class A space on the first floor without the optical. I wouldn't see that. You need to get your expenses down. So I would get 600 square feet, because if you don't have the optical, you don't need as much square footage. So you can get 600. I mean, you may have to get 1,000 because a lot of times they're broken up into thousands. But 600 square feet, 1,000 square feet. And you have 2 pre-testing areas, an exam room, 2 exam rooms, 2 pre-testing areas, and a waiting area and a bathroom in the back. And you're ready to rock and roll. And just keep your expenses down. I may have only 1 staffer to answer the phones, and you do all the pre-testing and do the stuff yourself to start. And you may be able to start with no staffer, because in the beginning, you know, you can answer the phones. You're not going to have 1,000 phone calls in the first day. And you can call somebody back, let them leave a voicemail. You call them back and schedule their appointment for tomorrow. So keep your expenses down. Be cognizant of when you're buying equipment to not buy things that are too expensive to start. And get started with your dry eye. Get started with your medical billing. Build up your patient base and grow from there. But it's nothing wrong with not having an optical if your expenses are lower. I wouldn't have the same level of expenses that I have now and then not have an optical to draw that profit from.
And one other thing that I would strongly recommend as well is, with the position that you're in now, you really need to start building up your referral database. So you really want to start reaching out to all these practices that are around you and say, hey, I specialize in dry eye. You're going to get your patient back, because I don't have a retail aspect to my clinic. So you're always going to get your patient back. I just want to take care of their dry eye. And you want to get as many of those people in your circle that you can always count on them to send you patients, in addition to you getting out into the community and really branding yourself about that, really marketing yourself about that. And that should make a big difference as well. Also, going back to something that Dr. Johnson touched on, reach out to other healthcare professionals. I mean, your rheumatologist. I mean, that's a great person to speak to, because we know a lot of those conditions that they handle, they get dry eyes. So being able to reach out to a lot of those physicians and having them in your database, that will also help grow your practice quickly. And as Dr. Adam Ramsey mentioned, you can do whatever you want. I mean, we are in a field where, you know, you can kind of do whatever you want. And a lot of people are actually moving more into that niche model anyway. So you're actually doing something that folks have already done. Reach out on different forums and ask folks if they've done it and try to get their blueprint. The thing about the eye care industry is a lot of people will help you out. You just got to really push and push and push, but they'll give you the information if you ask for it.
Great.
I agree.
And another question, probably because, you know, where I am right now, I've been there for 10 years. You know, I've invested a lot in terms of like the EHR and things like that, of that nature. So, you know, I don't know where I would be legally and maybe also morally if, you know, what would happen to that patient base? Can I reach out to the patient base and tell them that, look, I've moved and this is where I'm at now?
Do you pay the bill on the EHR?
Absolutely, yes.
And it's yours. So if you pay the bill, you can take it and do whatever you want with it. So
but I would also check with an attorney and look at all the paperwork, the contract that you guys did ahead of time as well. Make sure.
No, but the issue is
I don't even have a
patient
contract.
Is yours. The patient is yours.
Yeah, the patient's mine. Yes.
An optician cannot.
Exam writer is mine. Yes.
Yeah, the optician can't have control over the charts, so the patient would be hers regardless. The only situation in which the patient is not yours is if you work for a corporate entity and maybe an ophthalmologist is doing the sublease and you're leasing from the ophthalmologist, or you're subleasing from another optometrist, then the charts may go up the stream. But the optician can't have, because the optician can't be in control of if the patient has glaucoma and can't be in control of that patient's health records. So the records are yours. You move across the street, you email them and say, hey, I've moved down the street. You can find me here. That is a great situation. So if you have 10 years worth of patients, I wouldn't be so concerned. Now, the only concern thing for me would be, do the 10 years worth of patients, if most of them come for optical related services, and then you move and you no longer offer the optical related services, those patients, so a lot of times they want to go for a one-stop shop. So they like you, but the fact that you're going to do a great exam, but then they have to make another stop to get their contacts or get their glasses. I may say maybe sell contacts, but not glasses, since you don't have to have an inventory with the contacts. But that might be a little bit of a sticking point, but making sure that you're on the medical insurance panels, because if you're not selling glasses, the vision insurances are not as important to you as the medical insurances, and making sure that you have, you know all the provider numbers and stuff like that, so that when you transfer, you can then, I would add a second location. Don't cancel and try and get re-enrolled. Add a second location first and then cancel the first one. Because if you cancel and try and re-enroll, they may not all let you on. but
Right.
most medical insurances will allow you to add on a location. So
Mhm.
you add a location first while you're still at the first one, and cancel and close the first location after you open the second one. Would be very really important to do. But if a lot of the patients who came to you for optical related services, even though you had 10 years worth of patients, you may only have, you will have less that didn't need or want any of those services in the 10 years. So you're really going to have to keep your expenses down and then rebrand yourself as more medically orientated.
So the key thing is really, you just gotta do the title of the book. You gotta practice warm. You gotta get out there. You gotta put your name out before you actually make this move. You gotta make those connections. You gotta connect online. You gotta shake hands, kiss babies. You gotta do a warm start. And you already got a lot of it done by already practicing for 10 years. But again, reach out to those healthcare professionals like Dr. Johnson mentioned. Reach out to different industries, demographics like Dr. Ramsey mentioned, and practice warm. For those that are listening today, if you want to buy this book, Dr. Adam Ramsey, can you tell them where they can get it?
You can go to playchessnotcheckers.net and you can buy the book. It will route you to Amazon to buy the printed copy of the book. You can also get the ebook on Amazon. You can also get it on iBooks, Barnes & Nobles. Anywhere that ebooks are sold, you can buy the ebook. The printed book you can get through Amazon, and the Audible should be here soon. I've already recorded it and I've loaded it. Audible just takes a really long time to approve stuff. So I'm waiting on that to be loaded. If you follow the Play Chess Not Checkers on Facebook or on the website, you will see when the Audible is available. So you can, anywhere, if you type in Play Chess Not Checkers, type in my name, you'll find it somewhere. It comes up pretty good on most social media and most search engines. But you can buy the printed and the ebook currently. The Audible is coming soon. Trust me, I want it as soon as as much as you guys want the Audible, I want it to be out. So that's what I'm working on right now. Just waiting on getting that back as soon as possible.
Right. That's great. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up. You can also check out that book or buy that book on blackeyecareperspective.com. We have the link there for you to go and purchase as well. Dr. Adam Ramsey, I'd like for you to just leave your contact information, whether it's an email, social media handle, just in case someone has a question or if they actually want to hire you for some consulting services. What's the best way for them to reach out to you, sir?
I am on all social media, Dr. Adam Ramsey. You can go to dradamramsey.com. You can find it on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Message me there. You can email me at docramsey, DOCRAMSEY at socialitevision.com, and we can talk further. I love to help businesses grow, start, grow, thrive. I've had a great run, and I'm excited to be able to add that feedback and just give that little boost to businesses or doctors that are looking to grow or start, and to make those small but strategic changes can really make a huge difference when you're starting, making sure that you make some smart moves. So if you need anything from me, I'm always available. Everybody knows me. I'm approachable, and I have great friends in there. So if I don't want to have the answer, I can always ask somebody like Dr. Glover. So if you ask me a question, I don't have the answer, I just ask Dr. Johnson or Dr. Glover. And I'll get it from them and get back to you.
All right. Well, thank you dearly, Dr. Adam Ramsey. Again, you guys can buy that book pretty much anywhere online. You can hit up blackeyecareperspective.com and you'll be able to hit the link to get there. And we will update you on the next webinar that we will have. We have a special treat coming for you guys. All right. Until next time, have a great one.
Thanks, guys.